Hello, joy seekers and joy givers. It's Deb McGregor here. We have our special winter series for the infusion of joy. And with me today is our very special guest, Marina Zamzow of M Designs. Marina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Deb, for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited about this because we're gonna talk about joy, creating joy in your space, and oh my gosh, this like sort of two of my favorite topics all built into one today. So I'm super excited. Before we talk about how people can create that space, let's talk about you. How did you even get into this concept of designing and paint colors and countertops? Where does one start with this?
Well, it actually goes back to my roots. The way I was brought up, I came from a large adoptive family, and I found that I had a real knack for setting tables at Christmas time, helping with painting the walls in my mom's house, cleaning, just putting things together in each space in my mom's home. And then I did that also for my sister, and I helped maintain her home too. And I always loved when she came back from like Pottery Barn, and she would unload all of her things and she would watch me and I would just place things in places. And she's like, oh yeah, that looks really nice, So it really just came from my upbringing. And then it turned into, in my adult years, a lot of my friends came to me and said, Marina, you're really good at setting up your dinner table for Christmas time. You're really good at picking out colors. You really understand how to make an entire space look complete without it being overdone. Because sometimes we tend to put a lot of things in a space because we think it looks really well. And sometimes less is more. So yeah, it kind of just came from my own personal gift of designing spaces.
And this, I really do believe this is a gift. I think, yes, people can go to school, you learn different, I'm sure there's very specific things when you go to school, right?
Yep.
You learn, do this line with it. Okay. And I get that. And I do also believe that there are some people just can look at colors and they just know, like, yep, this goes with this, which goes with that. I mean, and it is a gift because, of course, you and I both know, like, Deb does not seem to have this gift. And I look at all the colors, just like a bunch of mishmash to me. And you walk in, you're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. So I love that you've taken not just formal training, but also the gift of this, and then actually started helping people with their spaces.
So through experiences. So really, I did look into going through like a design school. I've tried to do it a couple times, but I actually got some professional advice, and they realized at the level of designing that I was already doing with friends and such, I didn't really need that additional schooling. It wasn't going to change my business model. And so I just wanted to start, and that's kind of what I did. I love working with my clients and sitting down with them and really getting to know them, because once I get to know them, then I can understand what they want in their space, and it is really going through trial and error with some folks, because sometimes people don't know what they like. And then when they see it, what they think they like, they're like, I don't like this. And it's, at first, it can be a little scary, but for me, I'm just very confident that I can create that perfect design for them and take all the time they need to get it done.
And everybody's on a different journey with what they're even looking for. Some people are getting ready to sell a house. Some people are going to live in the house 10 years. Like, people have just all kinds of different things that would relate to that, right? So I think there's definitely, something in that too. So I know one of the things that you like doing is helping people embrace their home, have peace in their home, find joy in their home. So how do we go about helping people create joy in their home?
So there's many ways to go about it. As an interior designer, the first thing I look at is making sure that everything in the home has a flow. Because if you've got one completed space in your home and then you've got, let's just say it, chaos or messes or piles in other spaces, or maybe the color scheme doesn't follow through the home, I come in and I evaluate. I sat down with a gal a day ago for blinds, and I started to see, well, the ceiling needs to be worked on. I was there for a blind consultation, and somehow we talked about paints, and ceiling, and seeing the flooring, and say, well, I know someone for that. I know someone for that. And that's kind of what is helpful to my clients, is that I don't just sell and work in a certain thing. I through consultations like a blind consultation, I will discuss the rest of their home, and that's not like additional charges. And I think sometimes that comes as a factor. But in regards to joy and the home, I think really it's creating completed spaces, making sure that they reflect your personal style, making sure we're creating those oases in our home, like where it's the master bedroom, or maybe it's your children's rooms, knowing that they have a space that's catered to them. All those little details actually go back to making you feel happy, like happy to be home. I meet a lot of people, whether they're let's just say you're a doctor, where you work long hours. You want to come home and you want your home to be completed. You don't want to be forever in that project, the project house. So yeah, those are some ways to create a little extra joy in your home. Yeah. And then there's also making sure that sometimes like color schemes. So like green is a trend right now. I've always loved green. I've always tried to sneak it into people's homes, but green in a kitchen, like lower cabinets, if you find the right color, that can even brighten someone's mood completely just by one color, and
of course we know this. Think about the clothes that we wear. Right. Like when you see people in certain clothes, it affects the way that you see them, look at them, experience them. Like it all matters. And what I love about what you're bringing up is talking about this oasis, because when you are in a project home, which I feel like I am a little bit in a project home right now, there's this trying to find the sense of one place that you can go that is feeling done, so that at least as the other ones are getting worked in, there's definitely that place. And I started thinking about this pandemic time period we've been in, and how many people were working from home, schooling from home. Like we were at home all the time. And I know this is high. I'm just curious about, what did you start noticing about even the way people were treating their home offices, or the kitchen table? I think took on a whole new meaning, right?
Right. You just made me think of another point. So another thing I've noticed, even in our pandemic, the layouts of homes, that can create a joy, because your current layout could be open concept, which is fun. Okay. It was fun 2 years ago. It was fun because you didn't have to work in that space. You didn't have to keep your children home from school because there's too many, COVID related cases where schools had to shut down, or staff shortages. There's a lot that's stressing people out. So when they came home, they realized their living room's here. They realized their dining room's right there, and it's all looking nice. But then you realize, I can hear everybody. I can't think straight. I'm trying to do a work conference call, and I've got my child talking about Barney over there, or whatnot. So a new trend coming out in 2022 actually is to box up your dining room. Separate that space so you have those intimate times, and then you're starting to see and rethink about how you're using those spaces. And the ones that kind of got lost, like sometimes, how often do you sit down and eat a meal with your family?
More now than 3 years ago.
Right. Maybe now, but it wasn't always the case. And sometimes with everyone's changing schedules, especially if you've got older children who have their own schedules, finding those times now and having that specific space set up in your home, it really does create that joyful, loving environment, and it all comes down to one thing, and that is that space finished and reflecting your family style?
And does it have flow? I like
Yep.
that word flow, because for me, that word flow works on it's multiple things, right?
Right.
Flow is a space. Flow is a way of being. Flow is like when we have flow, there's movement.
Mm-hmm.
That's what, because when there's a stopgap there, when we don't have the flow, it's the movement that's at stake, right? It
Right.
really does shift everything.
Right.
So I think that is just really, really a key thing. So where does someone start? Because like we've talked about these project homes, and I think for a lot of people, they probably don't just have one project. They probably do have multiple projects. So how do they even get started without getting so overwhelmed
Right.
that,
Right.
because that's, I mean, I think somebody's like, okay, yep, I'm on. I can see people listening today and like, okay, yes, I'm on this. I want flow. I want my flow.
Yep.
And they start looking around. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. And then nothing happens because
Right.
the overwhelm just goes whoop, and all that great energy that was there is whoop.
Well, and then sometimes you even start buying. You start buying before you're even evaluating where to start in your home. And the first thing and where I would start is actually a sit down with your spouse or your family members, whoever you're having involved in the spaces in your home, um, and setting a budget. This is really crucial. I think sometimes people get so excited that they start to buy, and then they have a pile of things, and then maybe they don't even use them, and then they've lost the receipt. So now you've got to get rid of that and resell that. So it's really important to first start off with a budget. And from there, you can see the spaces in your home. Well, which one do we occupy the most? Are you a single person where you're in your living room the most and maybe you needed a different couch, and then that's where you would start. And you would look at all the pieces. And if you need to hire someone like me, an interior designer, because maybe you can't see the flow of furniture in there, or you're just don't have the time to look for the stuff yourself, that's when you call and you hire someone to come in and do it for you. Otherwise, I always like to say you can pick, because I'm kind of a budget Nancy. You should pick higher end pieces that are going to withstand wear and tear. So, like your couch, you should pay a little more for your couch because it's going to last longer and you're not having to replace it so quickly. You know, and then your like end tables or coffee tables or any other stuff, you can kind of get them middle to the road for pricing. So really it is focusing on the budget and then evaluating which space do I occupy the most, or which space is so disorganized or maybe doesn't even serve a purpose. I had a job maybe right before Christmas where I had a gal, and I have it on my page, and she had a space in her home, and I came there for painting for my previous boss, Mr. Mole's painting. And so I came in and was painting, and I just thought to myself, it looks like, and she agreed with me, it looked like where you walk into your orthodontist appointment, the waiting room. The way it was set up, it looked like a waiting room. And she's like, I just never knew what to do with this space. So then we sat down and we started talking, and I realized she needed a place to fold laundry. She needed a quiet spot for herself to read because she's got growing girls, and you need that mom time. And so I did that. I picked unique pieces, a beautiful cabinet to sit in there, a beautiful couch that was comfortable and soft. And she even tried it out before we purchased it, and then the color scheme just is relaxing, and it's really just, I think her favorite spot in that home was that space because she finally had something for herself. So that's another thing that you can look at is not only your budget or a space that's just dysfunctional, but also who is going to be utilizing the space. Is it your wife who's at home all the time? Are you making sure that she has spaces that she can go to, whether she likes to knit, or a craft room? Is it set up for her, to be able to do her projects and
Yeah.
such?
Well, and I like when you get clear about the intention of how you are going to use the space, then you can design what you want to
Mhm.
do. I find, so many times like, well, I could use it this way. Well, I could use it that. Well, I could this. And until that decision is made, it's hard to even get a clear, like, this is the direction to go. And I love that about what you're saying. And
Right.
of course, I love the fact that you are budget conscious, because the majority of people don't have an umpteen amount of money to just go
Right.
spend on stuff. And I'm glad that you're bringing that up, because I think there's something in here about, we make up that, oh, you can only do this if you make X amount of money.
Right.
And that's actually not true. And especially, like, you're really good at thrift shopping, and there are a lot of places that you can actually go and get nice pieces
Mhm.
without spending a fortune, right?
Right, right, and it's really having, my kind of brain, basically, and being able to see out those pieces and know this my client will absolutely love. Another thing, oh, what was I gonna say? Another thing I was gonna mention is that with your home, um, oh man, I totally spaced
That's
it
okay.
out.
It'll come back to you,
Yep.
because as you were talking about that gal space and the reading area and that whatever, because that's the other thing, is things change in our lives, right?
Okay.
We go through ebbs and flows.
Yep. Yeah, so I remembered now. So you also have to think about the season you're in your life. We all go through seasons. So I am a mom with a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and an almost 5-month-old. So my season of life is I need things that are gonna hold up with kids that run around and are gonna draw on things and not panic and have a lot of Mr. Clean bars. um, you know what I mean? So that's the season I'm in. Some people, their kids are about to enter their college years,
Mhm.
and that's always that empty nest, and then you see those spaces in your home. That's a great time to remodel because now you're thinking of your spouse and the time you're going to have, the traveling maybe you'll do, and your home is reflecting that. And it's good to have a project to keep you busy, especially during the retirement stage, that's another good time. And then another thing to think about is are you in the season of life where you're moving or considering to move? So now we're evaluating your home to get it to the best price it can be for a certain budget that you want to invest in your home in. Do you know what I mean? So maybe it's
Yes,
a kitchen
absolutely.
update, a little repainting or just swapping out a few pieces in that area. And when it comes to getting your house ready for selling, you really want to have your kitchen put together, your master bath, all other areas, you could paint them a neutral color, and replace maybe some flooring that's worn out. But beyond that, new clients will come in and they're going to make it their own,
Yes.
So you really got to look at the selling factors of your home.
Absolutely. Well, and I love that one of the things you're talking about is a little bit of even staging. It's
Yep.
like, how do you want to set this up to be able to sell it?
Hmm.
And sometimes just, it's amazing what even just a few pieces of furniture can do, or a new paint color on a wall can do. It can completely shift a space.
Hmm. And you can, if you have a lot of closet space, you can maximize that by having someone come in and paint and pull out and box away all that stuff. So that when people are walking through and seeing your home, they're going to see the space that they can put their things away in. Because
Yes.
sometimes that's another thing that people are like, I moved in here and I have 2 closets. I didn't realize that, you know?
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely. So I love a lot of these joy tips you're giving people, and how to start, where to start,
right.
and how do they stay on task? Because everybody gets excited, they get going on the project, and then all of a sudden it's like they hit the wall.
Right.
What are some little tips you've learned to keep it going and keep the movement going?
Well, first of all, it's nice to hire me. I'm not gonna lie, because I kind of am like your human calendar. So I do my check-ins around Monday morning. I'll do my check-ins. I'll go through who I've been discussing on starting a project with, who I'm currently in a project with, or maybe I have a set time to meet them at a later date, and that's when I do my check-in, because I'm checking in not on the project first, but actually where you are mentally. Because sometimes when we're designing, it's stressful. You know, some people get stressed out or overwhelmed because something didn't go the way they wanted it to go, or their budget took a hit because their car broke down. You know, where they wanted to get everything done, they're only going to be able to do a little bit of it, and letting my clients know that they can unload that information on me and it doesn't deter me or make me want to drop them or leave them in their situation, you know? So I always do like a mental health check to see just how they're doing, because I truly care about my clients. And then from there, we talk about the project and where they're at. So I do the check-ins, and if I am leading a project, I will make sure my contractors are well aware of the situation, and just having that natural discussion with them, which is most times I find clients like that. They like that they don't ever have to talk to the contractor other than when they're in their home. You know, they like knowing that that project is set up for them, that I'm doing my job of reflecting their needs, you know, whether it's a time or whatever they need, that's being addressed to the contractor and they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
If you're doing this on your own, if you're my DIYers, which I love, and you're doing projects on your own, it's good to set little reminders in your phone. It could also be where you've made all your orders online to be shipped to your home, and you take a couple days off of work to set up your home. Take that little extra time to complete that space so you're not having packages sit in your home, you know? But really making use of your calendar in your phone is helpful. You know,
Yeah.
setting a date, setting an end goal, setting a start date, and then a check-in in between, you know?
Yes.
I do offer consultations too. So if anyone is just looking for ideas, I do that, you know? And it's sometimes nice to talk to a professional to kind of lead them in a direction, especially if you and your spouse or whoever you're occupying the home with are conflicting on certain styles in the home, you
Yep.
know?
Absolutely. Let's talk about that for a minute. I'm glad you brought up the consultation. So I'm sure we have people that are watching this, whether they're watching it live or they're watching it after, that are like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to her. How do people get in touch with you, and how do they follow you to get more of your great ideas?
Okay, so if you give me one moment,
Yes.
I really am on Facebook quite a bit. Just people contact me through that. But the way you can find me is at m.designs.bemidji. And that will, if you plug that into your Facebook, or you can plug in m.designs LLC, and typically it pops up. That's one way to reach me. You can also reach me by phone. My phone number is 715-219-3080.
I'm putting this in the comments just so you know too.
Perfect.
And that way
So
people can reach you.
those are really the two best ways to reach me, just because one thing, my brain never shuts down when I'm working.
Really?
I do have my downtime with my kids. I do. I make that time. But when I'm on my phone, I think some people probably think, oh, she's just looking at this or that. Like my husband, I wonder if he thinks I'm just looking at silly things. But actually, I'm looking at trends. You know, I'm constantly looking at trends. So when I get alerts on my Facebook page, I'm always on it because I'm already there. On platforms, just viewing content. And that really does help keep my creative brain going, especially when I'm working in clients' homes and I'm trying to find something more unique for them. So that's the other fun thing about me, is that I don't say you should have a certain style in your home. I actually meet with you and I get to know you, and I ask you, what do you want to see in your home? And we create a style around that. And that can be a combination of a few things.
Yeah.
So it's very unique to the clients.
I love this.
Yep.
So you talked about, let's kind of close out with, so you talked about one of the trends is actually closing off spaces more. What's another trend we are seeing in 2022?
Well, green is a trend. I think minimalist way of thinking, minimalism is a trend, which means less is more. And by that, I mean, you can see in my house, I literally have white walls, and then I have just a few pieces. My home is also a project house. But I'm sorry, something just popped up on my screen. Um, Minimalism. And by that, I mean, we are taking off the little signs, off the walls, and we're putting up maybe just a family photo there. It's really condensing all the extra things you have in your kitchen, and we're simplifying it to one mixer, to a set of dishes that are a little bit nicer, that are going to withstand time. So it's really retraining your brain to not need a lot, and to really love and enjoy the few pieces you do have.
Yeah.
But again, that is a style,
Yes.
Not everyone needs to be minimalistic, and there is levels of
Right.
minimalism in my
Well, it looks
opinion.
different for everybody. Minimalist looks different for everybody based on where even their starting point is.
Right.
Well, and as you're saying that, I have been curious about the impact of the pandemic. I know coming out of that, I mean, I tried to take a donation load down, and I had to keep going back every day for a week because they just had so many things coming in. So I think I think people realize, like, I don't need all this stuff anymore.
Right. I still have a pile in my basement. I am waiting for spring. So I can send that out. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that a lot of people have lived in their spaces long enough to where we are seeing an uptick of people remodeling.
Yes.
And I also hear the horror stories, even in the area I live in, where things go a little wrong because sometimes you have to realize in yourself when you know how to do something and when you need to call in the big boys to come give you better ideas and better contractors.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense. Absolutely. I am just so grateful for you coming in today to give us some ideas and some tips for getting more joy in our homes. And I just was kind of summarizing in my mind, the flow that you were talking about, prioritizing the spaces that you use the most, looking at how you're going to use that space, and knowing to bring in a professional, even if it's just to get some ideas, even if you're going to do the work yourself, just having that person who can come in and go, okay. And we obviously, I can't remember if I put this in my little, the advanced thing, but we obviously hired you. We're still in process.
Yeah.
And one thing that you did that I found was really helpful is when we were looking at the counters, when we were looking at the flooring and all that, like, you basically came in and said, okay, I've narrowed it to these choices. Instead of coming in with this huge honking book of blah, it was based on this space and based on everything you've told me. Here's the narrowing down. And then it was like, okay, I know it's actually easier for me to go, I don't like this. Right. And then we were able to ring right in and then kind of sat with it to go, okay, how does this feel? How does this flow feel using these? And I find that incredibly helpful. Right. And you weren't doing all of the work, you're doing some of the work, but what was great is to be able to say to some of those other folks, okay, we've had a professional pick out these colors. Here's what we want to do. And it takes so much of the guesswork out and the flow. It kept the flow going, right?
Right.
And so I just want to encourage people that are listening to you right now. If if this is keeping you awake at night, decisions are hard. Give Marina a call. Just do a consult.
Yes, I highly recommend
that's the place to start, right? I mean, that's the place to start. And then you get to choose if you want to go beyond that. But even just getting those first steps out of the way, this is just me personally, I think it is well worth the investment. And the other thing I just want to say to you is, even though I know probably what you could be charging, one of your belief systems is that an interior designer should not just be for people who have this amount of income.
Right.
And I know I appreciate that, because even though you could charge more, it is that you want to be available and accessible so that the average person can still have a home with joy.
Yep, and that is exactly why I created M Designs. I wanted to create a design service that caters to needs of all, and not to just the wealthy. You know, I think that you can create a space on a budget, and I think that you can do it and make it look glamorous. You can make it look high end with less.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Well, I think you're amazing. I am pretty
thank
sure
you.
people listening to you today are probably going, man, I got to talk to them. I am
Well,
so,
thank
so we
you.
want to encourage you. I did put it in the comments. You can reach out to Marina 715-219-3080. Make sure you're following her at m.designs.bemidji. And she's all over the Facebooking too. Like, you can find her, and she gives all kinds of great tips and articles. And I know that you will benefit. So thank you so much for coming on today. This has been awesome.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed this, and I know this is just another great opportunity for me to get to know the Bemidji area and the surrounding areas. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, my joy factor's up again, so this is awesome. We want to thank all of you for choosing to tune in for our winter series, Infusion of Joy. We want to remind you we'll be back next Wednesday at noon with our special guest, Emily Enger. She is going to be talking all about writing and authors and how to make writing more simple. She is much more than a copy editor, but a lot of people, I know that's what they think about. And trust me, you are going to love her too. Like, it's just amazing. It's going to be another amazing show. So thanks for joining us. Please remember to go out, live joy, share joy. And we hope that this has infused your joy today. Bye, everybody.